Hassan Rouhani, the new Iranian president, and his foreign minister Javad Zarif are asking Iranian-Americans to join an American pro-Tehran lobby in order to counter the Washington-based pro-Israeli lobby.
دیپلماسی عمومی به عهده شماست و حتی در مسیر راه دیپلماسی رسمی این شما هستید که در دیپلماسی عمومی باید یاری کنید، کمک کنید و شما عزیزانی که مقیم کشور آمریکا هستید آستین ها رو بالا بزنید. ما به شما نیازمند هستیم.
البته شما میدونید که اسرائیل لابی بسیار قوی در آمریکا داره، در کنگره نفوذ داره، کار زیادی کردن و اتفاقا این ما هستیم که باید جای خالی یک لابی قوی ایرانی رو در آینده پر کنیم. باید کاری بکنیم که در بخش‌های مختلف عده‌ای تلاش بکنن برای اینکه افکار ایران، مواضع ایران، نظرات ایران، ملت ایران رو به گوش مردم آمریکا برسونن و من فکر میکنم خود ایرانی هایی که اونجا حضور دارن باید اونها اولین قدم رو بردارن.
جامعه آمریکا، حتی جامعه سیاسی آمریکا، یک مجموعه منسجم یک پارچه نیست. گرایش های متضاد بعضا در این مجموعه وجود داره و این مجموعه پیچیده همونطور که جای بازی برای رژیم صهیونیستی فراهم کرده باید امکان حضور فعال برای ایران هم فراهم بکنه. من اینجا یک نکته رو میخوام بهش توجه بدم و اون حضور یک جمعیت عظیم فرهیخته ایرانی در آمریکاست که اینا باید به عنوان سرمایه‌های ایران حساب بشن. اینها هم میتوانند به عنوان گروهی که دیدگاه دارن، منافع کشورشون هست، منافع سرزمین به قول خودشون و به قول ما مادری و پدریشون هست، از این منافع دفاع بکنن و اجازه ندن یک گروه کوچکی بتوانند منافع خودشون رو، دیدگاه های جنگ طلبانه خودشون رو نه تنها بر ایران و بر جامعه بین‌المللی بلکه بر آمریکا هم تحمیل کنن.
Rouhani's team is telling Iranian-Americans that Israel and AIPAC, the Israeli lobby in the US, is their most effective political enemy. Thus, Iranians living in the US should form a strong lobby to convince the American public that the Iranian nuclear program has completely peaceful goals and that the greatest threat to Middle Eastern stability is not Iran, but Israel.
صهیونیست‌ها 60 سال با مظلوم نمایی تونستن حقوق مردم فلسطین رو تضعیف بکنن. ما نباید اجازه مظلوم نمایی به صهیونیست‌ها بدیم و من یک لحظه تا جایی که توان داشته باشم اجازه نخواهم داد که نتانیاهو با دروغ بافی و هراس افکنی در مورد ایران سیاست‌های خودش رو که بیش از همه مردم مظلوم فلسطین ازش رنج میبرن و فشار به مردم فلسطین واقع میشه، اجازه نخواهیم داد که این سیاست‌ها رو بتونه دنبال کنه. در این مسیر هم منافع ایران حفظ خواهد شد، هم منافع مردم فلسطین. تهدید در منطقه ما تهدید هسته‌ای از رژیم صهیونیستیه، تهدید نقض حقوق بشر از رژیم صهیونیستیه، تهدید تجاوز و توسعه طلبی و اشغال از رژیم صهیونیستیه. این تهدیدات باید واسه مردم منطقه ما روشن باشه، نه اینکه یک تهدید موهومی به اسم جمهوری اسلامی رو بتونن برای مردم این منطقه در واقع القا بکنن و بر اساس اون سیاست‌های خودشون رو پیش ببرن.
According to Rouhani and Zarif, this anti-Israeli crusade would not only help Iranians and Palestinians, but would also enable American politicians to free themselves from the blackmailing Israeli lobby.
400 نماینده آمریکا میان یه قطعنامه تحریم رو امضا میکنن. اون 400 تا نماینده به دلیل فشار این لابی صهیونیستیه که این کار رو کردن، چون این گروه های فشار صهیونیستی گروه های بسیار پرقدرتی هستند، از طریق ارعاب، تهدید، حتی از طریق استفاده نامشروع از بعضی امکاناتی که دارن یا به قول خودشون بلکمیل کردن یا باجخواهی سیاستمدارا رو وادار میکنن به اینکه نقطه نظرات مورد خواست اونا رو بگیرن.
Rouhani and Zarif are not the first who have tried to lure the Iranian diaspora to the current regime's lobby. Since Rafsanjani's first term as president in the early 1990s until now, Every government in Tehran has tried to convince Iranian Americans to join a pro-Tehran lobby, but they have all failed. The reason is that the majority of diaspora Iranians profoundly oppose the theocratic regime and will never serve its political objectives. Let's hear what Ali Bigdili, a prominent pro-regime expert in Tehran and a supporter of Rouhani, has said on this subject in his interview with the reformist newspaper Bahar. Ali Bigdili: for Iran to compete with the Israeli lobby is not possible. Bigdili, an expert on international issues, was asked to comment on the possibility of the formation of an Iranian lobby in the U.S. and the extent to which Iranian residents in the U.S. could influence public opinion and decision-makers. Bigdili replied that it would be very difficult, in fact, simply impossible. He conceded that a considerable proportion of Iranian Americans oppose the Islamic Republic of Iran. Bigdili's opinion is realistic. One example can demonstrate the regime's total failure to attract Iranian Americans. NIAC, the National Iranian-American Council, is a small lobby organization in Washington led by Trita Parsi that fights for the removal of pressures and sanctions against Iran. The government press in Tehran has on several occasions defended NIAC and has called it the Iran lobby in the U.S. Trita Parsi and his support base NIAC have always projected themselves as being champions of a crusade against the Washington Israeli lobby. Parsi's doctoral thesis, as well as his book, focus on how Israel and AIPAC have prevented Iran-US friendship. NIAC's anti-AIPAC campaign mirrors the regime's storyline that Israel is the sole force behind international Iranian sanctions and is essentially a bullying force that dictates U.S. policy towards Iran. NIAC has always characterized their anti-AIPAC lobby as a David versus Goliath battle, as a smaller grassroots Iranian-American movement, NIAC, on one side with the hawkish American Israel Public Affairs Committee, AIPAC, mega lobby on the other. However, this NIAC lobby, to whom millions of dollars have been given over the years, has utterly failed to gather Iranian Americans under its wings. Just look at this year's annual NIAC conference held in mid-October, for which NIAC financed a 3-month-long campaign trying to attract American Iranians to participate. NIAC's story was that since the moderate Rouhani has become president of Iran, the Iranian people have reconciled themselves with the regime. Iran-US relations are quickly improving, therefore American Iranians should join the NIAC conference and seize the moment. To make the conference more attractive, NIAC brought 22 speakers. Let's see the level of NIAC's success within the Iranian community. This is a photo taken in front of Congress of all participants. There are just 43, and 10 of them were NIAC employees and interns. This means that out of 1 million Iranian Americans, only 30 people actually took part in this show. This means that Iranian Americans will not play games that profit the regime. So, if diaspora Iranians are not willing to join this lobby, where does this pro-Tehran lobby's influence come from? Fouad Aizadi, a well-known pro-regime analyst who has lived in America for 20 years, told the Fars news agency in Tehran that the regime should not dream about forming an Iranian lobby comprised of Iranian Americans. Instead, the regime should enhance the Iran lobby that gathers together other American groups and political forces who do support Tehran's strategic goals. For example, several U.S. anti-war groups are part of the Iran lobby because they oppose White House belligerent policies toward Iran. Also, U.S. oil corporations support the Iran lobby because of their own interest in Iranian oil. Izadi: our past efforts to attract the Iranian Americans to form a lobby has failed, and what we see is 2 or 3 persons who claim to have a strong Iranian lobby. They get money from us and from Americans, but they are largely unsuccessful. Therefore, what we need is an Iran lobby, not an Iranian lobby. In the past, we maintained contacts with U.S. anti-war groups, and when Ahmadinejad went to New York, he met regularly with the leaders of these groups. During Ahmadinejad's term, when George Bush was president, NIAC and other pro-regime groups coordinated with Ahmadinejad's office, and notably with his chief of staff, Mashaei, to win the support of anti-war groups. Hundreds of activists were taking to visit Iran to meet Iranian officials who sought to convince them that the regime was seeking peace and friendship with the international community, and that it was the Bush administration and Israel who were provoking war and destruction. In September 2008, 150 representatives of U.S. peace groups participated in a reception with Ahmadinejad in New York. Many of them praised the Iranian regime and offered help to combat U.S. pressures and sanctions against Iran. Now let's come back to Rouhani's request to enhance the pro-regime lobby. Just a few days ago, a new document was published which significantly unravels all this lobby-making business and their related objectives. After Rouhani's return from New York, the Center of Strategic Studies, affiliated with the Office of the Iranian President, invited a number of prominent foreign policy experts to analyze his visit to New York and to offer advice on the future course of action to be taken. These experts drafted a report that was then published on the Iranian president's own website. This is a revealing document. Look at some statements. Recommendations for resolving obstacles in U.S.-Iran relations. The term Iranian lobby that is being used by President Rouhani should be modified. We do not need an Iranian lobby, but we certainly need an Iran lobby. It is not essential that this lobby be constituted by Iranians alone. Apparently, the president did not have the occasion to meet anti-war groups in New York. One important component of this Iran lobby are American oil companies. These companies must be approached for enhancing the Iran lobby. Is it not laughable that the regime itself admits that Iranians have remained aloof from this so-called Iranian lobby and looks to American oil companies for aid and support?